All right, welcome to This Explainer. I gotta say, I am absolutely thrilled to guide you through today's topic. Because right off the bat, there's this really beautiful piece of irony I want us to appreciate. The very organ you're using right now to process my words and to make sense of all this information, well, that is the exact same organ we're about to explore. Yep, you're literally using your brain to study your brain. It's the most powerful and honestly mysterious structure in the human body, responsible for absolutely everything you do. Your thoughts, your imagination, your movements, even your dreams. So how exactly does this astonishing biological machine actually work?
Okay, let's dive right into this massive number, 86 billion. That is the estimated number of neurons just firing away inside the average adult brain right now. To put that into perspective for a second, it's roughly equivalent to the number of stars in our entire galaxy. And all of these billions of highly specialized nerve cells are packed tightly into a biological machine that weighs only about 1.3 to 1.4 kilograms. It's just a stunning feat of natural engineering, and it really sets the scale for everything we're going to look at today.
So to make sense of this ultimate supercomputer, here is our agenda. First, we'll cover the hardware, which is the anatomy. Second, the wiring, looking at the neural network. Third, the software, tackling memory and emotion. And finally, number 4, the mysteries, where we'll look at consciousness.
Section 1. The hardware. Anatomy.
It's honestly wild to think about, isn't it? We're talking about a soft 3-pound organ controlling your thoughts, your emotions, memories, movements, and even your dreams. Something so relatively small and unassuming is solely responsible for everything we do, think, and feel. Without it, there's no language, no memory, no movement, no you. Every time you casually pick up a cup of coffee or have a crazy dream about flying, this small 3-pound engine is exactly what's making it happen.
Structurally, we can break this engine down into 3 major components. First up is the cerebrum. This is the largest part, and it's handling your higher thinking and problem solving. Then, tucked right at the back is the cerebellum. This strictly manages your balance, coordination, and movement. It's what lets you walk or run without just falling over. And finally, we have the brainstem. Think of this as your automatic survival center. It's constantly regulating your breathing and your heartbeat right now, every single second of your life without you ever having to consciously think about it.
Now, what's really interesting is how that massive top section, the cerebrum, is basically split right down the middle, giving us the left hemisphere versus the right hemisphere. And for a lot of us, there's a dominant side for different tasks. The left hemisphere is generally the domain of logic, language, and math. It loves structure, you know? Contrast that with the right hemisphere, which is far more connected to your creativity, your imagination, music, and art. They're constantly talking to each other for sure, but they definitely have their own distinct specialties.
Section 2. The wiring. Neural communication.
Remember those 86 billion neurons we talked about earlier? Well, they're constantly sending information back and forth to one another. Each neuron has branches called dendrites that receive incoming signals, and a long cable called an axon that sends signals out. But here's the crazy part. They don't actually physically touch. They communicate across synapses, which are these tiny gaps at the end of a neuron's axon where chemical and electrical messages physically jump to the next cell. Everything you experience is dictated by millions of these microscopic jumps happening every fraction of a second. So how exactly does the signal make that jump? Well, it uses chemicals called neurotransmitters. Think of these as the cast of characters running human behavior. Dopamine is all about reward, pleasure, and motivation. It's what drives you. Serotonin handles your mood, sleep, and emotional stability. Adrenaline is your emergency system, immediately spiking your heart rate during danger and stress. And oxytocin? That's the love hormone, building trust and bonding. Every sudden mood swing or burst of motivation you feel is simply a shift in these specific chemicals jumping across your synapses.
And they do all of this unbelievably fast. 430. That is the staggering speed in kilometers per hour that some of these signals can travel through your brain's communication network. When you stub your toe and instantly pull your foot back, or when you somehow catch a falling glass right before it hits the floor, you're relying on an internal network that's literally operating at the speed of a high-performance sports car.
Section 3. The software, memory, learning, and emotion.
The amazing thing is, your brain's software is constantly being updated. And this brilliantly illustrates the concept of neuroplasticity. That's the brain's ability to adapt, reorganize, and rewire its neural pathways throughout your life based entirely on new experiences. When you learn to play an instrument or speak a new language, your neurons are forming brand new connections. The more you practice, the stronger and faster those specific pathways become.
Your hippocampus processes these new memories initially, and then, this is absolutely crucial, while you sleep, your brain goes to work turning them into long-term storage.
But of course, our internal software isn't just cold, logical data, right? It's deeply emotional. And here we have a classic showdown that shapes human behavior: the prefrontal cortex versus the amygdala. Your prefrontal cortex is your logic, planning, and decision-making center. It's the voice of reason. Your amygdala, on the other hand, is buried deep within the limbic system. It's your rapid alarm system for fear and danger. It reacts instantly, way before your logical brain fully processes what's going on. We are constantly, day in and day out, balancing the careful logic of the prefrontal cortex with the raw, fast emotion of the amygdala.
And here's a number that explains a whole lot about human behavior, especially if you've got teenagers in your life. 25. Scientists tell us that the prefrontal cortex, again, that's your vital center for self-control and logical decision-making, doesn't fully develop until around the age of 25. So, when younger folks make highly impulsive decisions, it's often quite literally a case of the emotional amygdala completely overpowering a logic center that is, well, still under construction.
Section 4. The mysteries, consciousness, and sleep.
Now we arrive at what is arguably the biggest mystery in all of science. How does the brain actually create awareness? We know that electrical signals travel down axons, and we know that neurotransmitters cross synapses, but how do those purely physical, chemical reactions somehow magically transform into the rich feeling of being alive? How do they create self-awareness, personal identity, and the uniquely human experience? Despite all of our incredible technology today, exactly how the brain generates consciousness remains heavily debated and honestly largely unknown.
What we do know is that your brain is locked away in the dark, silent vault of your skull. It has absolutely zero direct access to the outside world. The brain actually constructs reality by acting as a prediction machine. It's constantly analyzing patterns to predict what happens next, relying entirely on sensory signals from your eyes, ears, and skin. Ultimately, what you see and hear is just your brain's best possible interpretation of the outside world, designed to help you survive and make split-second decisions.
Another profound mystery is what happens when we power down. Why do humans dream during REM sleep? Even when you're sleeping, your brain is incredibly busy repairing cells and flushing out toxins. But the dreams? Well, there are a few competing theories. Are they there to safely process complex emotions? To practice survival situations like a virtual reality simulator? To organize and store memories? Or are they just random electrical activity? We literally spend about a third of our lives asleep, yet the definitive purpose of our dreams remains a total mystery to neuroscientists.
Section 5. The universe inside you. Amazing facts.
Let's move on and see how this all builds into something truly mind-blowing. Just consider this energy breakdown. Your brain accounts for only about 2% of your total body weight, but it uses a massive 20% of your body's total energy, leaving 80% for the rest of you. It's incredibly demanding just to keep all those billions of connections firing. And speaking of connections, there are more possible neural connections in your brain right now than there are stars in the Milky Way galaxy. You are carrying a remarkably energy-hungry universe right inside your head.
And you know, it's a universe full of incredible contradictions. The brain actually generates enough electricity to power a small light bulb. Yet, despite processing every single pain signal from a stubbed toe to a burnt finger, the brain cannot feel pain itself because it completely lacks pain receptors. It's this buzzing, energetic, painless organ that doesn't just store your memories in one neat little filing cabinet, but instead scatters them across its vast network, completely reconstructing them on the fly every single time you want to remember something.
Which brings us to this powerful, beautifully poetic paradox. A machine made of cells is studying its own existence. Throughout this whole explainer, your neurons have been actively firing, physically rewiring themselves just to better understand themselves. It's the organ that allows us to build civilizations, explore outer space, and imagine the future. Yet, the profound truth is, the more we learn about this 3-pound universe of billions of connections inside our heads, the more delightfully mysterious we become. So what will your brain discover next? Keep learning, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.